press the button.
We are recording. Cool,
Yeah.
good stuff.
I'll kill you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Marshall Maywald. This is Owlbear Odysseys. I'm here with my two other Owlbear best of friendos. Say hello, other two.
You are pointing at no one. There is no one on
Oh
that side of
no!
you.
Wherever y'all are, I'm
Stop
looking
pointing!
at my.
Well, he at least has
Say
gotten
hello.
it partially right because JT is above you.
Say hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Are you as tired of Marshall's antics as we are?
I can't.
Leave us a comment.
I can't impress upon you guys how, like, we've had these conversations off camera. It's like, Marshall, the bit's getting old.
Sorry, I just watched one of our old videos and the bit came up and it triggered me again. So introduce yourselves, other two.
I'm
Shane.
I'm JT. Hi, it's me.
I am Shane. Hi, it's me.
Marshall's the problem, but it's me.
Well, thank you. Thank you all for joining us. This is another one of our 3x3
The worst
videos.
part, I'm sorry to interrupt you. The worst part is how much you enjoy this every time. You do your little pointing gag, and then you enjoy the pain that it causes the two of us.
It's enjoyable. So this is another one of our 3x3 videos. We have 3 other videos like this, one going over spells, magic items, and subclasses. Y'all should go check those out. Today we're going over feats, and these feats are either new and we think we should bring some awareness to them, or underrated, or just our favorite. And we all think they're still all enjoyable. So let's hop right into this. And first up, we have JT. Kick us off, JT.
If you haven't seen, we've done other videos like this on the channel with other D&D topics, but we're picking feats, and I went with some oldies that I just think deserve a little bit more respect. And the first one that I picked is the Elemental Adept feat. Now, feats are pretty short, so, well, the ones I picked are. So I can read this one in its entirety to you. It's on here, but you get to choose one of the 5 kind of common elemental damage types: acid, cold, fire, lightning, thunder. Spells you cast ignore resistance to that damage type, and when you roll damage, you can treat a 1 as a 2, and you can choose it multiple times and select different damage types. What I like about this feat, D&D is not a game that incentivizes you to build damage type specific builds, even though in kind of general fantasy, that's a super common trope, right? You got your human torches, you got your scorpions, your gladiuses, like you've got all of these elemental characters that, you know, they control lightning or fire or whatever else, or heart if you're in Captain Planet. But D&D, because of how debilitating it is to hit something with fire that resists it,
Or worse,
there's no
is immune
reason
to it.
Yeah, or is immune to it. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in a minute.
What's
There's no reason to choose just one damage type that you focus on, even if that's the character correct option. And so what I really love about Elemental Adept is that it doesn't give you a damage boost, but it gives you more consistent damage for that damage type, and it lets you ignore any resistance. Now, I wish that there were a way to treat immunity as a resistance. As far as I'm aware, there is not in the game, but I think Shane mentioned, like, it might be cool that if you take Elemental Adept a second time and choose the same damage type, you can do that. Just a fun house rule if you want to implement it. But I like making damage type specific builds more viable, and as far as I'm aware, this is one of very few ways in the game to ignore a resistance, and I really like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I sorry, I'm cutting you off, Marshall, but
No, I was
Oh, good.
Well, not you, JT. I don't care if I cut you off.
Fair.
But no, it's honestly somewhat surprising that JT beat me to this feat for that exact reason. I've talked about it multiple times before, how much I love the idea of the, like, this guy is the ice wizard and he uses all the cool cold spells, and this one's the just the focused elemental builds, and like everything that JT said, it's hard to manage to do in the game, and this one is something that is it somewhat allows that, although there is still, no way of getting around immunity, generally speaking, which
Mhm.
sucks. But I'm gonna talk about it more later, so I'm just gonna touch briefly that we have. I mean, we have a current campaign, but we have a campaign that's going to be starting soon,
Hmm.
and my character in that one is going to have a little bit of a focus. I mean, it's not it the elemental type he chooses is not going to be the only one, the only thing he does, but he's got a little bit of a focus, and I intend to take this soonish.
I was gonna kind of piggyback off what you said about piggyback off what you said, JT, about the taking Elemental Adept again, but we could actually one up it, kind of like where a lot of feats now are having a prerequisite feat where you have to take Elemental Adept, then you take Elemental Master, and then you can turn immunities into resistances. And then you get another boost of that damage type or something like that. I think that'd be really cool and just further upgrading it in different ways. I would really
Yeah.
like that if they do that more often with a bunch of other feats. I am a big fan of feats before another feat. You're just improving on this one thing because that's your focus. I love those.
Yeah, I feel like if you made it a separate feat, you would have to word it very specifically. Because if you say that it turns immunities into resistance, oh, Elemental Adept lets me ignore resistance. So you're just doing full fire damage on a fire elemental. But if you
Yeah,
word it right, I really like that idea.
yeah.
Yeah. So maybe something for DMs to think about. But
Yeah.
even as is, without that extra addition, Elemental Adept still pretty good.
I like it a lot. Well, next we have, after Elemental Adept, JT's, we go into Shane's. Shane, what's yours going on about?
My first choice is Skill Expert. So this one is not flashy. It's not gonna make or break a character, but it's one I really enjoy because kind of similarly to the whole concept that I like of like an elemental focused caster. I also really like
Mhm.
characters that are really good at one thing. And I mean, you can play a rogue or you can play a bard and you can get expertise and you can be good at lots of things. But if you're not playing one of those and you want to be really good at a skill, then skill expert is a great choice. My character in Heartwood Heist, Dawn, has this. I took skill expert and I gained expertise in perception, which is why she is godly at perception. You should watch me messing with Marshall on that over on Harvard Heist. But it doesn't just give you expertise. It gives you a +1 to a stat, which is good. We love half feats. They give you a +1 to something, and this one is good because it's any of them of your choice. A lot of the half
Mhm.
feats are something specific, and maybe you want the other benefit, but you don't really need to increase the specific ability, right? But this one is just
Mhm.
your choice, and then you gain
Very
a
flexible.
proficiency in one skill, and you get expertise in one skill. It's very basic, it's very simple, but I love it.
I agree. I like the simplicity of it. It it allows you to further enhance your character. The I love giving a lot of my players like ways to get more feats, and this is something that I would love for a lot of players to be able to get to further show like this is the thing I like to focus on. Like Dawn in our Heartwood Heist game with freaking perception. The lowest perception you have got was 22 or 25 or something like that.
I
It's
think I may have gotten an
insane.
18 once, but that was just really bad
Oh,
luck.
Yeah, Dawn can
yeah,
spot
but
a needle in a needle
18.
stack. I was wondering on where to bring this up, and I think this is the appropriate place to do so because an honorable mention for me is the actually a bunch of feats in one, the feats for skills unearthed arcana that I'm only just now realizing was the precursor to skill expert.
There
Because
is
if you're
also
not
a
aware,
skilled feat, which may have been similar to. Sorry.
yeah.
Mhm.
Well, if you're not aware, Feats for Skills is an unearthed arcana that came out, and it gave a specific feat for every skill in the game that give you +1 to the associated ability score, give you expertise with that skill, and give you an additional bonus that's thematic to the skill. So, like, if you chose investigation, you can search as a bonus action. It's a very neat set of feats that I like. Not all of them are good, but I like that that exists. And skill expert is kind of a simplified, flexible version of that loses out on some of those extra abilities, but gives you, again, the flexibility in return. Maybe, if you've got a game coming up, something to check out, some of those feats are really neat. But as a fan of feats for skills, I obviously have to be a fan of skill expert. It's just the kind of feat that is never going to be wasted. It's not game breaking, but it can kind of apply to any character build. It might
That
be
is a really
Marshall
good
breaking,
UA.
though.
It does break me a little bit with perception. It's nutty. But it's a really good one. I also love that UA as well. That's a really good one. But the next feat that we have up, all
Buckle
the
up.
feats that I chose are all very long. I'm not going to read it all the way through because that's just how I go through things. Next one is Rune Shaper. If anyone has watched any of our other 3x3s, you should start to be realizing I really like variability and you to be able to do a lot of different stuff with a specific thing and being able to enhance it, basically. So, you get with Rune Shaper is being able to use comprehend languages without using a spell slot. It's good. It's not great, but you can start understanding all languages. That's pretty cool. The big
I
thing
wasn't
for Rune
sorry. I started yawning, but it's thematic because that is the less interesting of the abilities.
Exactly. The main part is the rune magic. If you scroll down a little bit, Shane, you can
I
actually
have
see
to.
you can see the whole table of the rune spells. We got cloud, death, dragon, enemy. I'm not going to read all of them. A lot of really cool ones, and you can make them however you want if you actually want to draw them. I think that adds some cool flavor to things. But they all have an associated spell, and you can draw a rune on any non-magical item, and then you are able to use that use that spell using one of your spell slots as a spellcaster, or once per long rest, you can use one of those for free. But you can only put one rune on each individual article of an item, basically. So if you have a shirt, you can only have one rune on your shirt. So if you want to make it crazy, you just cut off your sleeves. You have a sleeve for your arm on each arm, and you draw runes on them, and you'd be able to cast all of these. But a DM might say no to that, which is
Yeah,
understandable.
don't listen to Marshall. Just ignore that part. Continue.
But side
But
note, Marshall brought it up, which means that in future campaigns, Shane or I could do that, and he can't say a word.
It's true. You heard it here.
but the spellcasting ability for this feat focuses on your spellcasting ability. You actually no, you get to choose when you choose the feat, so you can make it intelligence, wisdom, or charisma. But
Charisma.
that's the big thing for this whole feat is that you just have all these different spells you can do however you want. And I really like the idea of some of these. One of them being the Burning Hands one. If you've ever seen Full Metal Alchemist, you could basically be like, oh no, I'm forgetting his name.
Mustang.
JT, help
Roy
me here.
Mustang?
Mustang.
What do you mean,
Roy
JT? I like
Mustang.
Full Metal Alchemist too. Okay.
I've obsessed about Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood with JT longer than I have with you, Shane. That's the only reason why.
I
Sorry.
have the
Re-
series. It's you can't see it, but it's up there. I promise.
Rest in peace to Shane's weebdom. It's a terrible day for Rain.
Seriously, I mean, I'm literally sitting
But
in front of all of my manga, and yet here we are. Okay, okay,
you
okay.
you can put the fire rune on a glove and be able to cast Burning Hands. And that's just so cool. You can do that with all of these different spells. Do that with Fog Cloud. I just really like the roleplay aspect of it, and you can do it in a huge variety of ways. It's really cool. It's much more complicated than other feats, but I really enjoy that type of stuff. So that's Rune Shaper.
But one thing I do want to say about the spell, I'm a really big fan, and I don't think this comes up enough in at least D&D games that I've played. I'm a really big fan of non-magical characters still having a little bit of magical ability. It's why I really like Eldritch Adept, or I can't remember the spell that lets you pick like cantrips from certain spell
You keep
lists.
saying spell. Do you mean feat?
The feat that lets you have access to spells from a certain
Magic
spell
Initiate.
list. I'm
Well,
a
there's
big
a
fan
few
of
that do
those.
that.
Yeah, there are a few, and I like them all because I like the idea that in a world that is saturated with magic, even people who aren't like, you know, heavy duty casters have learned a trick or two. If you, Shane and I are both huge fans of the Dresden Files, the series by Jim Butcher, and I was actually just reading one of his anthologies, Side Jobs, and there's a story where it's kind of hinted that a lot of characters in the universe know a spell or two, even if they're not full on wizards. And that's a really neat world building. And so I like feats like Rune Shaper, Eldritch Adept, Magic Initiate, all of those that give a little bit of just utility to non-casters to have that magic.
The sad thing for Rune Shaper, though, is you do a prereq for it is spellcasting feature. You have to have the spellcasting feature, which is only typically given to any class that has spells. But something that JT, Shane, and I were talking about earlier, prerequisites are kind of dumb. It's just what they are. There's some where that makes sense, but they are kind of dumb.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
definitely more complicated than just they're dumb. There's some that make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm going to let you guys in on a huge secret about Dungeons and Dragons. As the DM, you can just say there's no prerequisite. You can just take that out. What is it? The Battle Rager Barbarian subclass, the one that has like requires that you be a
Isn't good.
dwarf. It's not good, but
Yeah.
it's the one that comes to my mind because it requires that you be a dwarf, and then it says in the text there like, or if your DM decides that you're in a situation that would allow this. That's true of everything in
Yeah.
D&D.
Yep.
Everything is dependent on the DM deciding. So
The
if
same
you
thing with
want to be,
the Blade Song too. Used to
yeah,
be just
exactly.
elf, but now it's anybody.
So if your DM decides, yeah, fighter can learn Rune Shaper and have a couple tricks up his sleeves, Jeremy Crawford is not going to bust down your door and slit your throat.
Okay, let's keep on rolling, huh?
Next up, we have JT.
Oh no, he's
Sometimes
gonna talk more now.
I'll be quick on this one because defensive duelist is a very simple feat. When you're wielding a finesse weapon that you have proficiency with, another creature hits you with a melee attack. You can use your reaction to add your proficiency bonus to your AC for that attack. About a year ago, I was having a conversation with a friend.
Why would you get that close to reading the whole thing and not finish? What's wrong with
Because
you?
because the phrase potentially causing the attack to miss you is superfluous.
It
That's what
is,
boosting
but
your AC does. But I was having a conversation with a friend who said that defensive duelist is a useless feat, and if you take this, you should just use a shield. And I disagree because A, shield takes up a hand, and some classes don't have proficiency with a shield or can't use a shield, and so defensive duelist gives that AC boost to them. But also, a +2 boost to your AC isn't making a world of difference. But once you start getting a little bit higher, once you're getting +3, +4, yes, the attacks coming at you are getting stronger, but that much that you're able to add also makes more of a difference. So this is not a game-changing feat, but I think that I've had disrespect put on it in my presence before, and I think we need to bring some attention back to it. That this is a neat one. It's not gonna, you're not gonna turn into God, but it gives you just something cool that you can do.
I think a big thing also is that typically someone who has this feat is going to be Dexy, and that means their AC
Dexy's
is
Midnight
typically
Runners.
higher.
Sorry.
their AC is also going to be typically a little bit higher already because their dexterity mod being higher. But I'm not a big fan of it just being for that attack. I wish it stayed like shield.
Yeah.
There are a lot of monster races that actually have or even just NPCs that have this type of ability, but it's shield. And I think they should keep that. And I think defensive duelists should also get that. But that's
I'll agree with you on that one.
I'm kind of on the other side of it. I think it's kind of fair that it's just once. But I will say that part of the one thing that I really like about it is, it obviously is a good fit on a build where you're not already using your reaction for anything. Because
Mhm.
then this is, you were talking about shield. Shield you have to have spell slots for, right? You can run out of that. This is just
Yep.
something that you can always do.
Mm.
It's something we mentioned in our recent video, marshals versus casters. We were talking about,
Mhm.
that the more martial classes tend to be, marathon runners, whereas the casters are sprinters. So they'll burn through their
Mhm.
shield spell slots, and then they won't be able to do it anymore. Whereas the rogue or whatever who's got defensive duelist can just keep parrying every turn until they're dead.
Right.
Yeah. There,
I
that made me think about a really cool way to another version of defensive duelist or enhancing it is where you could do add your proficiency bonus to saving throws as well to protect yourself. So like you're able to deflect, like someone shooting a fireball at you and you being able to cut out a portion of the fireball to dodge out of the way. Or that's cool. It's very
it's the way swords
legendary
work.
hero-y type things, and I love that. I like it, but I know.
Yeah, I think technically this a lot of features with this kind of effect say something along the line of once you know if the attack hits or not, but before damage is rolled. Probably just an artifact of this being from player's handbook, so very early, but it doesn't say that. So theoretically, you could wait until you know whether or not it'll kill you. Maybe talk to your DM about that one. They might get a little upset. But yeah, this is not necessarily something that you're gonna use every turn. Like you might not want to use up your reaction on this every time, but sometimes it could come in handy.
It does
I
specifically
like
say
it.
when another creature hits you, so you at least will never have to waste it on something that wouldn't have hit you anyway.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that's defensive duelist. I like that feat a lot. Next up, we have Shane. What's
All
the
right,
next one,
my
Shane?
next one is, don't make fun of me because I don't know how to pronounce this. Flames of Phlegethos. Phlegethos.
Legathos.
This is Flames of Theed. All right.
Legathos.
This one has a prerequisite of Tiefling, and this is one of the ones that I get where the prereq comes from. This feels very Tiefling, but there's nothing that it gives you that has to be Tiefling specific, right?
So if you want to be a fire breathing Loxodon, you go ahead.
Yeah. So this is absolutely something that, DM permission, of course. You probably don't need to be a Tiefling to get. You get a +1 to intelligence or charisma. That's nice. As I said, we love half feats. When you roll fire damage for a spell you cast, you can re-roll any roll of 1 on the fire damage dice, but you must use the new roll even if it has another 1. And it's like, sure, you might get another 1, but that is just a chance to always have more consistent damage.
Mhm.
So that's nice. Whenever you cast a spell that deals fire damage, you can cause flames to wreath you until the end of your next turn. The flames don't harm you or your possessions, and they shed bright light out to 30 feet and dim light for an additional 30 feet. While the flames are present, any creature within 5 feet of you that hits you with a melee attack takes 1d4 fire damage. That's fun. I mean, that 1d4 damage is never gonna. I mean, it's only gonna make or break something if the thing is already almost dead, right? But that's very cool. This is what I was referencing earlier, that we'll talk about my character in the next game we're playing, because that character is a tiefling.
It has the
Uh,
best name ever.
you'll have to hold on for that. We're not ready to release that one yet. You guys aren't ready for that yet. It's a very good name. I put a lot of effort into it. But he's got a little bit of a flame focus. I am kind of leaning into the stereotypical tiefling being very, demonic sourced. And so along with that, he's got some firepower, and maybe he doesn't even isn't even that good at controlling it. Maybe it just happens. Maybe when he uses, a fire spell, he's just kind of on fire for a little bit. And maybe at some point that'll be on purpose, but when we start, it's not gonna be.
I'm always a big fan of any ability that allows you to say no to a one when you roll a one and attempt a reroll. I love those, especially for damage. It's just really cool, especially when you are you are focusing on fire damage, and your whole thing is flames. So you doing more damage than other people who also use fire makes sense, and I like that a lot. I'm always a
Yeah.
big fan of those.
And the more dice you roll, the better an ability like that is. Like Shane said,
Yep.
you're never going to roll less damage when you re-roll. Like the worst you get
Mhm.
is another 1, but if you're rolling, 8d6,
What
that
an
is
odd number. I wonder where that specific
uh,
number came from.
if you're rolling 8d6, that's a lot of dice, and it's a lot of chances for you to maybe boost your damage just a little bit. One other thing I do want to say is about the 1d4 fire damage. That takes effect anytime someone hits you with a melee attack within 5 feet. It's not a once per turn thing. So if someone has multi attack and they're taking 5 attacks on you right next to you, you're getting that damage a little bit more consistently.
Mhm. It's really cool. I love that ability.
All right, it's Marshall time
Well,
again.
that's Flames Phlegathos. The next one is another long one. It is Strike of the Giants. So, Strike of the Giants is one of the ones that require some dumb prerequisites. If anyone disagrees with me in the comments, please let me know. I think
And get
needing the
dunked
I
prerequisites.
on.
mean, I think I probably disagree with you already, but comments can roast you too.
That's fine. I think that having the prerequisite of the martial weapon proficiency one makes sense. But the giant foundling background, I don't really like that.
I mean, if it
Where
was
you have to,
and, then yeah, I would hate that. But it's or. You gotta have one or the
yeah,
other.
yeah. So it makes sense. It's more okay. There's some other feats that are much more strict with their prereqs, and
Yeah.
they're dumb. This one is a little bit more flexible. So the big thing about this is you somehow absorbed primeval magic.
Primeval.
It's Prime.
Don't say it like it's one way or the other.
Primeval.
He's heard it both ways. He's wrong, but he's heard it both ways.
And you now have the Might of the Giants. Now, once per turn, when you hit a target with a melee weapon attack or a ranged weapon attack using a thrown weapon, you can imbue it with an additional effect, and that's from any of these options: cloud strike, fire strike, frost strike, hill strike, stone strike, and storm strike. That's a lot of strikes, but it's all the different giant types, and I really like all of these abilities. All of them have a special thing that they do extra, minus the fire giant one. It's just you do an extra d10 of damage once per turn that you have when you attack, because you can't do it on every single attack, which it balances it a little bit more. And all of the abilities are just really cool, but you have to choose one of them. And there's not much variability with this when after you choose it, but I think it's really cool, and also how this Strike of the Giants feat leans into the next feat, which is all the other feats that connect with the specific giant type you focus on. So you can improve the Cloud Giant feat you can improve the Cloud Strike with the Cloud Giant feat, and so on with all of them, and they're all really cool, and they improve upon them just a little bit, and they all have extra abilities. But yeah, that's Strike of the Giants. What are y'all's thoughts?
Yeah, it's almost like we enjoy variability and the ability to like have a focus, you know? Because there's a lot of options here and you can improve on them and have a focus. You can be the guy who is, has power of a fire giant and you can take that to this stage and you can take it to the next stage. That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
This is obviously one of the newer feats. This is from Bigby Presents Glory of the Giants.
Mm-hmm.
My paladin character that I'm currently playing in another game, I just took this one. I took Stone Strike, and I was able to run up to next to the gunslinger, who always hates it when people get in within 5 feet of him, and I just smacked someone and pushed them 10 feet away, and then there was no one in 5 feet of the gunslinger anymore. So it's this is a very cool one with a lot of little things that you can try there.
Yeah.
Also, just this isn't necessarily all that important, but the saving throw DC for any of the ones that cause saving throws, you can use
Yep.
your strength or your con mod, which is really cool because neither of those things are used for this typically.
Yeah.
And also, my paladin character has a belt of fire giant strength, so I have a +7
Oh,
strength, which means that my DC for this is very high.
that's
Nice.
cool. I like that.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the stone strike ability. I like any ability that lets you reposition your enemies
Hmm.
because in a lot of fantasy combat in like books, TV shows, movies, a lot of the beauty of the choreography is that people are always moving and like you'll have an attack that throws someone and then they'll land and try to get a better position. And a lot of times D&D kind of just turns into a bunch of one-on-one fights that are standing still. And it's why you'll see this once I've started DMing, but I try to use a lot of really interesting terrains that give incentives to move around. Like maybe you can get an advantage by being up here and jumping down on someone, or maybe there's some force pushing people in the terrain. And so I like any ability that lets you reposition yourself and your allies. As you'll see with my next feat, I'm a big fan of mobility. But the other thing I like about this feat is that it gives the DM some lore hooks to grab onto
Hmm.
because if you choose Frost Strike, oh now this player has a connection to frost giants that they might not have had before that the DM can later on maybe you can introduce a frost giant character or maybe there can be someone who's racist against giants and it'll come out. There's just a lot of fun ways of implementing this feat with the campaign. We've been told that we focus on things from a DM's perspective. Guilty. That is the way I
Oh,
think because I've DM'd more than I've played, but that's where my mind goes.
I just want to say
Same.
real quick, you heard it here. JT said that racism is fun.
Oh, the other thing that
Jeez.
I wanted to say, y'all might have noticed that earlier when Marshall was reading off what Strike the Giants does, I was laughing my head off because I don't know. If this is too mean, we can take it out, Marshall. I'm not trying to roast you. I genuinely
Oh,
thought it
okay.
was really funny. As you were reading it, you were like reading the words almost like rhythmically, like it was a spoken word thing. Like, you've absorbed primeval magic that gives you the might of the giants. And I really got a kick out of that. I thought it was fun.
This has been slam poetry with Marshall. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't mean it offensively at
Uh,
all. I thought that was fun.
it doesn't sound offensively. That's all great. Well, that's Strike of the Giants. Next up, what do we have, JT?
My last one, and again, pretty simple, but it's a very mobility focused feat, Wood Elf Magic. This lets you pick a Druid cantrip. You also learn Longstrider and Pass Without Trace. You can cast those two once without expending a spell slot. The cantrip you just get as a cantrip. So you get a little bit of versatility with the Druid cantrip. There are some fun ones in there. And then Longstrider and Pass Without Trace. I think it's well known what those spells do, but both of them just augment your mobility just a hair bit. And like I don't really have much to say about this since I already said it when discussing Strike of the Giants. I just really like mobility. I think it's very underrated in D&D. So that's all I have to say.
Yeah, we've already focused perhaps a little too much on prerequisites in this video, and this is definitely one that you do not have to be a wood elf for this.
Nah,
I mean,
Yep.
DM's permission, of course. I was gonna say
true to
DM's
man.
permission, but just speaking to the DMs, there's no reason that you have to be a wood elf to get this.
Yep.
Even if you want like the lore explanation of like, oh, but only a wood elf would be able to harness this kind of magic. A, that's not true because anyone can be a druid. But B, you could say like, oh, the kid spent time in the woods and gained the power, or like a wood elf gave him a necklace. They gave like there are ways around that if you're going to be a
Mhm.
stickler. But yeah, just forget prerequisites, my man.
You saying Pass Without Trace being a mobility spell was interesting. It
That's
doesn't
fair.
give you any mobility, but I understand why you said it still because it does help with mobility in the way that it hides you. That's the idea. But it doesn't actually enhance your movement.
That's fair. Thank you. If you
Well,
didn't say it, someone would in the comments.
This guy's so
if
dumb.
that's
He can't possibly be a dim. He thinks pass that trace is a mobility spell.
oh, that's Wood Elf magic. What's yours, Shane?
My last one is elven accuracy. I almost feel bad putting this on here because the idea isn't to pick like really good ones, and this one can be really good. It is also just like one of my favorites. Yet
Mm-hmm.
again, there's a prerequisite that you probably don't really need to deal with, honestly. But
Yeah.
you get a +1 to either Dex, Intelligence, Wisdom, or Charisma. And then whenever you have advantage on attack roll using, one of those four, you can re-roll one of the dice once. So in a way, it is kind of like double advantage. So when you would have advantage on one of these attacks, you get to roll 3 dice instead of two, and you take the highest of the three. As someone who rolls very poorly in general, I love having this. I perhaps talk too much about other characters that the audience doesn't know, but I had a sea elf ranger once, and I would use Zephyr Strike, which is just a really good ranger spell. But one of the things it does is you can, before the spell ends, you can just choose to give yourself advantage on attack. And so all of a sudden, I would just go from normal attack to I'm rolling 3 dice and taking the highest here. And that's really nice. And there's lots of builds. The other build that I haven't really gotten to fully play out, this makes for kind of an insane samurai fighter. Because they're
Mm.
one of
Oh yeah.
their first, or I guess third level features is that as a bonus action you can give yourself advantage on all of your attacks for that round or turn, or I don't remember the exact wording. Just imagine being like, I mean, at any level this is crazy, but imagine being like a 20th level fighter, you're a samurai, and you're making, you action surge, you make 8 attacks, rolling 3 dice and taking the highest for all of those. Can you even imagine how many times you're gonna crit?
Yeah. That's
I
rad.
That
I
is
think about
what,
this for a
24
barbarian.
dice?
And then you can dual wield and use your bonus action to attack a 9th time with your off arm.
Let's just go Zoro, and you're gonna have a sword in your mouth now.
All right, hold on. Days
Oh
without
no, do
One
you
Piece
actually have
incident.
it?
Days without One Piece reference.
It was
Reset to
Right
0.
there. I had to.
All right,
Uh,
we are working. We're gonna
it's
make
so
that even
good.
better than it is now. But yeah, set it back to 0, everybody. All
Well,
right.
that's Elven accuracy. The next up one we have is Cartomancer. It's not as long as my other ones, but this one, its prerequisites make sense for the ability. 4th level, but spellcasting feature, that one actually makes sense because what this does. So the first ability, Card Tricks, super crazy, but I love it. Prestidigitation is one of my favorite cantrips in the game, and you can use this cantrip and you can conceal your verbal and somatic components of the spell as ordinary conversation or card handling. And I love that, where you're just like doing some fun card tricks or you're just having a conversation and you do some prestidigitation crap and some crazy things happen. I absolutely love that. You also can use a deck as a spellcasting focus, which, if you want to, cool. There you go. You got a cool card deck as your spellcasting focus. The main thing for this feat is that the hidden ace ability, where you can, at every long rest, put any spell of any level that has a casting time of 1 action into one of your cards that's on your spell list. And then it stays in that card for up to 8 hours. And at any time, you can flourish the card and cast the spell within as a bonus action. So you're still casting it, so it still prevents you from being able to do a bonus action spell with the card and then an action spell. But you can basically get an extra spell slot and you can use a bonus action to cast that spell, which is super cool. And I just love the flavor and so many fun shenanigans you can do with this. And you get to feel like Gambit from X-Men. And who doesn't like Gambit? If someone doesn't like Gambit, let me know. I'll be a little sad, but that's okay. Gambit's super cool. What are y'all's thoughts?
I do have to clarify that you didn't specifically mention that the level spell you choose has to be a level of which you have spell slots.
Oh, yeah.
Which is a little thing,
Yeah.
but very important. You can't just be a level 4 wizard and use wish or something, right? You have to have spell slots for
Yeah.
it. The thing that is interesting is the way this would work with multi-classing though. Because if you're,
Oh.
I don't know, let's say 3 in bard and 3 in warlock or something, you're
Mhm.
gonna have, what is it, 6, you're gonna have third level spell slots, but you're not gonna be able to know cleric or warlock or bard spells. Oh wait, warlock is a bad choice. Multi-classing is weird. Pretend I said something else. But you might actually have higher level spell slots than you can learn of your class's spell. And this one
Yeah.
specifically, you would be able to pick from that class's spell list, and you would have the spell slot for it. So maybe you can't normally cast, third level cleric spell or whatever because of your multiclassing,
Yep.
but you can with this.
Yeah. That's really cool.
The other little thing here, I don't know why it's this way. You do this when you finish a long rest, so it's in the morning every time. Well, unless you take a long rest
Mhm.
some other time. But then it
Yeah.
lasts for 8 hours. It's
Yeah.
like, this is, technically speaking, this is a spell you can only use for the first 8 hours of the day.
This is
If
over
you want
after
to,
the workday ends.
you can't hide an ace up your sleeve until night. If you want to do this at dinner, you have to sleep in the middle of the day.
You have to do it before 4 p.m. every day if you wake up at 8.
Yeah, I think this is a neat one. It's kind of hard to talk about Cartomancer's value because its value is fully
Mhm.
dependent on the spells you can prepare or the spells you can put into the card. And so, really, like, sky's the limit. I really love the fact that you don't have to know the spell to put it in the card. I think that's the neat thing about this is that it gives you the ability to take spells that you wouldn't otherwise bother with. But I mean, if you take this one, just be creative with it. Go crazy because this is one of those abilities feats that it is only shackled by what you're willing to do with it.
It's very creative, and you get to do a lot of fun stuff. And that's what I think all of us are here for D&D. It's a great time. Well, that's all of our 9 feats.
And that's all of them.
Do
There are
y'all?
no other feats.
Oh
There's
no.
no other feats. Well, there's at least 10. There's at least 10.
We
At
have
least we
not
forgot
mentioned
tough.
we've not mentioned any other feats over the course of this video.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh no.
Well, as we're ending, JT and Shane, do y'all have anything else?
Well, I
No,
was gonna
not
say
this time.
something about like we have like a campaign or something going on, but no, we don't have anything.
Oh, we do have a campaign going on?
No, we're not
I
gonna talk about
mean,
it.
by the time this video comes out, we might not.
Oh, that
Wait,
is
so you're
true.
saying that it might be completed, and that
There
the
might
people watching this, I'm talking to like they're idiots. I'm sorry, but the people watching this might be able to see, I don't know, like a playlist of the full campaign. Not that it's a very long
there,
one.
but yeah, either we have a campaign that is playing first, third, and fifth Saturday of every month.
At 7 p.m. Central.
Either that is still going on, or we are currently preparing for the next campaign, which I'll be running, which will be streaming at it. It's not actually going to be live streamed, but it will be going up at a different time, and we'll keep updates. We'll probably, for currently 157 subs, love you guys, thank you. We'll probably throw up a
Much love.
community post.
Much
We'll
love.
probably throw up a community post just letting people know that the time is changing.
Mhm.
But regardless, there is D&D content to be watched. There's also another video like this talking about some of our favorite spells, and I think that one's a blast.
The one that goes over spells is a blast. One of my favorite ones that the other 3x3s that we have done is the magical item one. Y'all should go check that one out. There's a lot of variability with those fun magical items. Check
All
them
right,
out.
now I'll tell people to go watch the other 3x3. No, I'm not gonna do that.
Well, thank you all for joining. This is Owlbear Odysseys. Thank you for joining us. Goodbye, everyone.
Merry
Bye.
Christmas.
Oh no.